Ally, I'm pumped to have you for a bunch of reasons. One, I love you and you're my bud. But two, I'm gearing up at the time of this recording to take a real life maternity leave. I've dabbled with maternity leaves in my multiple other pregnancies, but this is the first time I feel like I've been really strategic and intentional. And this is your zone of genius with Master Maternity Leave. But I really want our audience to get to know you first and kind of what sparked that, because you've been in the operations space for years. You've worked with some pretty incredible leaders, helping them just get their ish together in their businesses and be able to function with operations and systems. And then you got that to translate into entrepreneurs being able to actually take leave or sabbatical or something that allows their business not to like, how does the business survive while you're out? It's how does the business potentially even thrive more than when you were in it because you've built this foundation. So before we dive into the nitty gritty, tell everyone more about you, Master Maternity Leave, and kind of just like the crooked road that led you to do this work in specific.
Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, almost a decade in business leads you down some strange paths. I've been behind the scenes of some high growth businesses, 8, 9-figure companies, big teams, big growth models, which is sometimes scary. I think for a lot of business owners, we see a path really clearly to grow, but the minutia of the running the business, the systems, the team, all the things just kind of get in our way. So I'm Ally Caffery. I always call myself an accidental business owner. Because when I cut my teeth in the operations game, I was managing big sales teams expanding into big markets, and I was managing all the revenue ops for those teams. And I gave my 2 weeks notice because my husband was in the military at the time and he was moving and recruited into a special operations unit. And gave my boss my notice and he was like, please, 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 would you stay for 90 more days? And I was like, totally. Like, what do you want to do? And he was like, I need you to figure out how you do everything that you do and teach it to all the other people. I was managing a team of about 10 at the time internally. And then we supported larger sales teams for our clients. And so that was when it kind of hit me on like, on the head a bit. And I was like, man, yeah, this is a really successful business and we're kind of holding it together with duct tape and string back here. And it really became the first time that I ever did kind of like a turnaround for operations. I feel like everybody is listening to Hormozi's new book, $100 billion Money Models these days. And he used to do like these gym turnarounds and be basically at the engine of their sales and do all these different things. If you guys don't follow him, please do that. But generally speaking, I was like, cool, I could turn an entire business around operationally in 90 days. And so I started taking on those types of projects because as soon as I was done in that business, I had like a line out the door of people who were like, can you please do this for me? And it really started to sink in. But a lot of people can grow successful companies and sell their expertise. Liz, you and I were just talking about this before we hit record. Like you can get pretty dangerous at selling stuff online or, selling your time for money or whatever that looks like. But it takes the next level to accept that you are actually running a business and a business needs a certain ecosystem operationally in order to be successful and especially in order to scale. So I've been doing that for quite a while and it's been a super fun ride. I've found so many different applications, but Master Maternity Leave was born and a lot of my work around sabbatical and strategic time off when I had my first son, Frank, and I was basically back to the business on a Monday after I birthed him on a Thursday morning. So that was confrontation number one. And number two was really looking at the business in a different way during that time, because a lot of people talk about what gets you, to this point won't get you to the next milestone or to the next thing. And I realized that when I had my son, I didn't want to do one-on-one fractional work anymore. That wasn't something that I felt like I could really grow to the next level with. And so I think a lot of times what I support clients in doing, whether it's maternity leave, sabbatical, summers off, any sort of, absence from the business, is considering how do we refine what we're doing, get better at what we're doing, and remove the need for the founder to be involved in every single thing. And that's kind of how we level up operations.
I feel like I can hear the people listening kind of just like mentally disqualifying themselves from this conversation, who either feel so embedded in the inner workings of the business, or they are the engine that makes everything go, or they're the filter that their team has to pass through in order for the team to even be effective. So knowing that there's probably a percentage of people, even with bigger businesses, smaller businesses, solo businesses, whatever, I'm sure it runs the gamut. Speak into them why they should mentally tune back in before they check out and assume this is not available to them, because the idea of taking, whether it's maternity leave, like the angle I want to take with this, because I know not every single listener right now is about to pop a baby out like I am. This is true for if you're about to have a baby, if you're going into a season where you want to be able to be more present, but you feel like you don't have the capacity, you want to take an extended sabbatical or time off. You want to write your book, but you feel so entrenched in your business right now that you can't even imagine shifting your focus to something that feels frivolous and non-producing for you. Or even just something that you taught me in your time in the mastermind when you were really building up Master Maternity Leave with us, you were like, the benefit of building these systems and strategies and everything is so profound for the future of your business. Like, you are future proofing your business. So I want you to come at it from that angle and just like deal some hope to our listeners who might be feeling like really convicted in another direction. But hit me with that, because I know this is a struggle because I've lived it. And because I've walked alongside enough business owners to know, like, this feels nearly impossible in the minds of a lot of creators and founders and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think first I'll try to appeal to the logic. So I talk about this in my book, The Sabbatical Method, but building a business for a lifestyle and building a business for exit are actually the same business, because a business that's really exciting to run is also really exciting to buy. And so I feel like business owners build businesses for one of those two reasons, right? They either want it to provide for their family, it really lights them up and they want to do the thing that they want to do, or they want to build it to exit. One of my clients, she owns a gut testing and gut supplement business, and she wants to build it to exit. She knows she wants to do that, but guess what we did today? Work on this. We worked on this stuff because it's really important for her to be able to get these systems in place, get her team firing on all cylinders, and so that she can sell the business eventually. So that's the logical part of it. I believe that in my experience, and I've been part of several mergers, acquisitions, tons of different types of restructuring of operations. The second thing that people who want to buy a business look at, besides the cash and how it flows through the business, is whether or not you have solid systems and your team can do the things that they need to do without you. And so demoing this, whether you want to spend more time with your family or whether you want to exit, is just a good idea. Now, let's talk about the health and actual growth implications. So if you are burning your candle at both ends in the middle and stuck inside of the weeds of your business, is anybody getting the best of you? The answer is obviously no. And we've heard this, tens of thousands of times. But generally speaking, a lot of the people that would come to me when I was first doing my sabbatical work were people who had advanced issues with their health, had really challenging relationships with their family and close friends, and they felt like they had let life slip away. And so the thing that I want to challenge you with is like, yes, business growth is incredibly, incredibly important, but the way that you grow that business is also incredibly important. And so when you're inside of the business and you're thinking, I can't get out, I can't actually take a vacation, you need that space from the business to be able to think about it critically, to imagine the next steps, to refine and define the vision if you haven't done that already. So I believe that strategic separations from the business actually do improve the business in the long run. So if you're thinking, I can't afford to take time off, if you're thinking, I can't physically separate myself because my revenue will dip or my team will have no idea what to do, this is actually the better play long-term for your business, whether you want to exit or whether you want to keep this thing forever and have it be a cash cow to build your legacy. So it is actually the same thing in the same hand. It just really depends on how you want to approach this. So if we start to think about it more as a return on investment, it's the same reason why people invest in masterminds, coaching programs, other sorts of things. Like this type of activity and built into the business at a consistent clip is actually going to help it grow more sustainably and more quickly long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What do you feel like are the missteps or mistakes that some people make when they think they're preparing for something like, we'll say, maternity leave or sabbatical or a slower summer or whatever, that they're like, okay, yeah, I'm getting my ducks in a row so that I can do this. But at the best, the business probably kind of stalls out during that time. At the worst, it moves in the wrong direction. There's a lot more chaos. They come back to an absolute like shitstorm because they weren't there to keep things in place. So like, what are some of the cautions that you would have for people that might be actually what they think they're doing to, make it fruitful, but it's really not going to help them?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question because I was actually just talking about this with one of my communities. I run a workshop about every 6 weeks called Leave Without Losing Momentum. And I think a lot of business owners plan around absence for status quo, right? And status quo easily can turn into slow season if we're not careful and we're not actually keeping our eye on how things are going. And especially if you've never done this before, I know so many business owners who plan a 2-week vacation and then they come back after just a few days because stuff is, going wrong in the business.
Right.
So I think this happens for 2 reasons. Number one, we don't train our nervous system on how to be away from our business. And so truly speaking, I do think this is real, that we need our business more than our business needs us. And I want folks to just think about that for a second. We need our business as a source of significance, importance, whatever that looks like for us. We need to feel like we're at the center of everything. We actually jump over the SOPs and the systems that we put in place for our teams so that we can be the one that has all the answers. And even if it's not front of mind for you, maybe just think about the last few disappointments that you might have had in your team, or think about the last couple of projects that didn't quite pan out the way that you wanted them to. Was it because you fully delegated and fully prepared and gave somebody ownership and the keys to the kingdom? Or were you constantly jumping over them every time a problem needed to be solved, or saying that you could do it better, or whatever that looked like? I believe wholeheartedly that if we can embrace a good system to separate ourselves from the business, it also helps our team step into the business in a really fruitful way and support the things that they need to support and put their fingerprints and their ownership on it, right? And a rising tide lifts all ships. So that's number one. Ask yourself, do you need your business more than your business needs you? The second thing is you want to make sure that you have a really solid couple of key systems inside of the business. So I believe every business only needs 4 key systems in order to operate really, really well, especially if you're below 30 to 50-ish in team, which I imagine most listeners here are. Yeah. The 4 solid key systems that you need. And if these aren't in place, you cannot take fruitful time away without being pulled back into the business, I believe. And you only need one system in each. So the first is a lead gen system. You need a way that new people come into your world and understand who you are after previously not knowing about you or your solutions or any of those things. It can be one simple thing, one simple lead magnet. A way to do that is up to you. The second is a conversion system. So a way that takes people who know about you and what you do and turns them into customers that you can serve. So that might be a webinar, that might be sales calls, that might be whatever it is for you. The third is a delivery system. So you need a way to fulfill on the promises made in system number 1 and system number 2. You need a way to fulfill and surprise and delight and knock it out of the park for the people that actually pay you. And then fourth is you need an improvement system, right? So improvement systems are how do we make systems 1, 2, and 3 better every single quarter. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all you need. It's part of my Operation Simplified framework. It's something that I've taught for years and years. And at the end of the day, if you don't have all 4 of those key systems, your only job as a founder is to define and make consistent those 4 things. Then when I look at some businesses who have like 15 lead magnets, but nobody's converting, that means they haven't defined their number 1 lead system and their number 1 conversion system. You have to be able to standardize those things. And that's how you can keep status quo and momentum when you go away, is because you've ran this play 1,000 times. You know that if you put 1,000 people into this thing, you're likely to get 20 customers out. Those are the certainties that allow you not only the space to take some time away from the business, but also the mental capacity of, oh my gosh, when I came back, I was the entire marketing engine and now we have no leads, or now our entire pipeline is dried up, right? And so that's what scares business owners. And I imagine some folks listening are like, well, I tried to do this and it was a total dumpster fire. That's why when you came back is because you didn't have these 4 things firing so that you could actually work away from the business for a little while.
Absolutely. And do you feel like this is true across all industries and universal? Just again, I'm trying to offset the limiting beliefs of the HVAC guy that's listening, or the woman that runs a photography business who's behind the camera all the time. Like, this is true across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's incredibly true across the board. And I think when it comes to delivery, another area where, especially like physical service providers, and I mean, listen, I support a ton of folks in industries like this, and I have for a lot of years. The plumber who started his company and was taught by his father, and then everybody operates in the plumbing company under his license, right? And he is the one that everybody comes to when there's a challenging project that needs to actually get figured out. I get that. I fully understand how challenging that is. And I just want to say that there are, in that circumstance, more importance on systems because you are just one person. And generally speaking, you want to create tools inside of the business that don't just live inside of your brain. So your number one job, if you want to get out of the day to day or not be the center of every single question in the business, is to start to take the things that you know and hand them to your team in a really meaningful and useful way. I call this, and have for years, the art of knowledge transfer. So you sit down and you take a look at, okay, what do I know about the way that we approach installing whole house filter systems? Like, what do we do here? And just being able to riff and understand that this information doesn't live in your brain anymore. I mean, we live in an age where information is very readily available, and we have AI organization systems that can take full word vomits of stuff that you've got going on with your business and make some linear sense of it and organize it in a way that you could probably hand something to your team. So the excuses are actually at an all-time low. People who say to me, I'm not a systems person, people who say to me, like, we're just trying to figure out our lead gen, or we're just trying to do whatever. My, kind of encouragement here is that you can use more readily available systems than ever before to be able to help you in the areas where you feel deficient. Right. So in general, I really do believe that this is, I would say, more important to the physical service providers because they only have a set of two hands, right? There's only so much they can do and touch and actually be able to implement inside of the business.
Yeah. I'm glad you say that because it's giving people permission who would have never thought that was even viable for them. The reality that it's in fact the greatest opportunity for them. As someone who's going to be stepping into this, like, coach me. Like, I have been putting into practice a lot of the things that you teach, thinking about the key systems, SOPing the crap out of everything that I could think of over the last 6 months to a year, trying to do it in a way that's like really rooted in like our mission and our value system too, so that it doesn't, like, boxes aren't just being checked, like we're still staying in congruence with who we are, which I think is really important. It can't be overlooked. Also been leveraging AI in a really big way. We basically built like a Liz bot that's trained up in everything I've ever done and said and coached people and podcasts and whatever. So not that my team doesn't know what I would say, but like now they don't have to sit there and write what I'd say when someone comes to them. Like, the bot is well trained, so it's making them more efficient. But it can be the tangibles like that, or even just the mindset stuff that I should consider. But like, treat me like a blank slate. Like, what would you tell me knowing that I'll be going into maternity leave in the next few weeks?
I meet this challenge excitedly and with a question. So my question is, what's the number one metric that you can look at as an indicator of success while you're out?
In general, or by my standard? Like,
either.
Like, okay. Well, I think the lowest hanging fruit, I like to look at profit more than anything over like revenue or even cash flow. So that's one. All right, I'll throw that one out there. You throw it back if it's not the right one.
I love it. No, profit. That's great. Does the team that is supporting you, would they say the same thing if I asked every single one of them?
Yeah. Yep. We've hammered that home pretty hardcore lately.
Well, then heck yeah. So that's the secret sauce, I think, in terms of like the very first thing is I think most business owners think that they've communicated the priority for the season with their team, and they have not. Okay. And I believe that priority is a singular word for a reason, and there should only be one. And every business owner I've ever worked with, whether it was for operational support, whether it was for sabbatical, whether it was for maternity leave, I hammer this home because I actually believe that your team wants to support you going out of the business and wants to support the growth. But we've all been there. I've personally been there. You go to a conference or a networking event and you're like, look what so-and-so's doing. We're going to install that funnel in the business tomorrow. And they're like, whoa, Ally, what is happening right now? And so I think generally speaking, we can still be the owner, still be the visionary, still be the person who's percolating on all these ideas and growth strategies and things like that. And we need to like put our leader hat on not share that exciting information with them until it comes onto their plates, until it actually is a priority on their calendar, and communicate one important thing. Like, I'm planning a maternity leave. One of my clients just had her baby 3.5 weeks ago, and they're about to enter into their launch, the big one that they do every single year. And it's a all hands on deck type of situation. She's got a small, lean team. They're about 8 people. And I was like, hey, does your team know the most important metric right now? And she did not answer the question like you did, Liz. She was like, oh, well, we look at this and we look at this. And they're all great metrics. I just want to say, like, metrics that you might be tracking at a consistent clip to tell you lots of things about your business. When everything else fails and falls, or you have 10,000 things on your plate and your team's feeling really overwhelmed, or you're feeling really overwhelmed, and you need to ask yourself, what's the one most important thing I can contribute today? It has to be improving that key performance indicator, that one metric. And for this particular business owner, it was applications into their high ticket program. That was it. The more applications they have, the more ideal revenue they have. Their program is extremely profitable. So then ideally, right downstream is their profit engine. So I think getting clear on that is the very first step. And I actually believe that this is an upstream thing that will affect everything else downstream.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think we did that. I think I did that by accident. So it's good. But I think now that you say that, I want to go back and bring a level of intentionality to that so that it's crystal clear. Like, this is our focal point. And then what about like any guardrails? You and I are cut from the same cloth when it comes to personality and, like hunger for our work and the propensity to get pulled into our work because we love it. All you get it. So knowing that and knowing that I am really stretching myself on purpose to step into a season of rest, which is like hard to even get the word out of my mouth sometimes.
Yes.
And laser focus on baby and my family. What guardrails can I put into place to protect me from being an old dog learning new tricks or falling into bad habits and being like, well, I can just like check in on my email. Like, I can just pop into Slack and see what they're up to. I can just like, I have some ideas I want to throw their way. I'll just Voxer the team or just double check on this client, make sure that they're feeling satisfied. Like, way too easy for me to do all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I suffer from this, always have. I'm not a blank space person. Never have been, although I have been trying to embrace more blank space. And instead of calling it blank space or rest or whatever, I've actually been you're going to laugh at me, Liz, just because you know me really well. I've been calling this active patience. Active patience. So here's what active patience is for me. So generally speaking, I want to just say that for anybody listening, especially if you're like, whoa, I really feel married to my work. It's because I love what I do. It's because I've built this thing on passion and grit, and I want to support my team and I want to support my people. But I know that I do need some of the space from the business. I talk about this a lot in my book, but there are levels to this. You don't need to fully disconnect from every single thing in your business. And in fact, if you don't feel comfortable doing that and that feels like it's stretching you more than it's providing you a restful, restorative benefit, then I don't encourage you to completely black out the entire involvement that you have from your business. And I think too many mothers, especially when we plan maternity leave, they feel like it's kind of all or nothing. They feel really guilty because they want to be in their business, right? Because they love their business, and they feel really guilty for wanting to write or wanting to think about new business strategies or communicate with their team or whatever that looks like for them. And I actually believe wholeheartedly that this new season of becoming, I believe a new version of us is birthed every single time we have a child because our family grows, the dynamic is different. It's just such an incredible experience. Through both of my maternity leaves with both of my sons, I had really great business ideas, like just really good ones. And honestly, I had some crappy ones too. And generally speaking, I think it's totally fine if you want to define a healthy way that you feel like you want to interact with your business during maternity leave or during times of rest. That could be journaling about your vision. That could be communicating big ideas to your team. That could be reading books about something that you want to learn in the future, about something you want to implement into the business. Like, it can be any of those things. And you do not need to feel guilty that you're quote unquote like working, because I believe we always are. I believe we're always working and we're always mothering. And when we try to detangle those two from each other, that's when we get in big trouble.
Right.
And I think everybody needs to just show up as them. Like, they just need to be themselves. So number one, my active patience is when I have a space in my calendar where I need to not be working, there are certain boundaries that I put in place. Number one, I don't take my phone. I just don't.
Right.
I believe that if I'm with my family, if I'm with Steve and the kids, everything else can wait. We live in Colorado, so we don't live near family. That might be a different circumstance for you if you have like an elderly parent or somebody who's going through a situation and they're very close to you and you may be on call for something. We live in Colorado. I'm a long plane ride and several hours away from my closest family member. And so generally speaking, nobody's going to call me and assume that I'm going to be at their house in 15 minutes. That's just a luxury I have, and that's how we live our life. Now, I don't take my phone. I definitely do not answer email first thing in the morning. So I have two safeguarded times in my day. My first is when I first wake up in the morning from about 5:30 in the morning till about 7 in the morning, where I do 90 minutes of focused work, no internet, no phone, nothing. It's a mixture of reading or writing or something. Could be something that, we do. And we talked about this quite a bit at the mastermind. I call it my 90-90 principle, 90 minutes of focus for 90 days on a particular outcome. So we can apply this exact strategy though to maternity leave, right? If you want to do something in the business, if you want to keep, your vision intact, if you want to support your team and lead your team, you could flip that on its head and say, great, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to work with something on my team for 90 minutes first thing in the morning. For maternity leave, I would say not first thing in the morning because you've got other challenges to meet during the day. But generally speaking, if you wanted to work for an hour and a half in the business, there is a circumstance where you could set up some care for your new kiddo. You could be in a situation where you could block that time. And I think it really just is about setting the intention for the time and then being able to meet it with a calendar that actually supports you setting or getting that intention out of the experience. So all to say, you don't have to feel guilty working on maternity leave during sabbatical, any of those things. Just make sure you define it, because if you don't have that boundary, then you're going to be in your slack. Like, it's just going to happen and it's going to end up being bad for everybody. The second is just being in a situation where you know what activities you're going to turn to instead. So for me, when I'm out of the office, we actually have a pretty structured home situation. I mean, we're on vacation, we're going on hikes, we're doing kids activities, our kids are in sports. We officially became a homeschool family this September. So that's super exciting. So I know exactly when my homeschool days are. And you know what? In the past, before I had the time blocked on my calendar and I leave my phone upstairs and then we do homeschool stuff, it's just very, very important to be able to know what season you're in, what's the priority, and then being able to put those priorities on your actual calendar. I mean, Liz, you know me very well. I put my walks on my calendar. Does that mean I can't go out for a spontaneous walk? Absolutely not. But generally speaking, that's my white space, is me going out and doing my walk, but it's still on my calendar. So that's just, for the type A people. The type B people might be listening to me being like, wow, this person needs to breathe and settle down.
I'm like you. I'm like, if it doesn't, that my calendar is what helps me be intentional. That's all it is for me. It's not that I'm not even a hyper scheduled person. I want to do this, but left to my own devices, I won't, because I'll fill it with something else. So if it's carved out, then I'm being intentional about it and then it exists. Same as putting date night on your calendar and you don't accidentally schedule something with the kids or whatever, during that time. So I love this because I've found, so years ago when I was a fast approaching burnout in my business in general, I had this strict rule when I'd go on vacation, and I preached it hard. I'd be like, when I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation and everything shuts down and I will not take a call. I'll leave my phone off. I won't check an email. My husband so appropriately and kindly pointed out, you're a total B leading up to vacation and an absolute monster when we come back. This sucks.
Yeah.
And on vacation, I would unplug so much mentally that it was like I dreaded coming back.
Yes.
And it was super unhealthy. And I'm like, I'm doing all of this for like 5 days at the beach. Like, this doesn't make sense. So once we started to evolve our model a bit and it wasn't so black and white like that, I was like, I feel great having a rhythm where, like, when we go to the beach for 10 days, I get up before the kids and I get like an hour or two of, I'm on no one else's calendar. So I never am like obligated to show up for a call at a certain time that could conflict if one of my kids got up early and wanted to go walk the beach at low tide, right? Like, so I'm not like, crap, I already scheduled this thing. So it's completely flexible. And it's the work I love to do, because when I'm on vacation, I come up with the ideas. I am most inspired, right? Like, you're in a new environment, you're more creative. So I found like I was squandering all this like creative energy because I was so strict with myself of like, no, be the type of person that when you're on vacation, you're on vacation. So I started carving out these moments of time in the morning when the house was quiet, where I was just in my sweet spot, which is also conveniently the work that tends to move the needle most in my business, but gets bumped down the chain in a busy week at home where there's just chaos. So I love that you bring it up for leave too, because I think I was about to approach leave with that old mentality of like, no, you said you're taking a maternity leave. Like, you will not look at anything. And I'm a psycho similar to you. Fellow psycho. I got something. I need to get sponsored by this company because I talk about them all the time. I got a ghost phone. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
So it's like having a flip phone, but it's not a flip phone, in the sense that I'm like, there are a couple things that would be really inconvenient to lose, like a high quality camera, because I use my phone to take pictures with my kid. I'm not going to walk around with a friggin' digital camera like I'm back in college or something. So they put
low-key do miss those days.
Right. They put a really high quality camera in it. Okay, cool. So that solves that. I'm like, also, I don't think I could like get to the end of my driveway these days without a GPS. That's a problem. That's a whole other separate issue that I need to fix. But they put in a GPS. So, but you have no apps. You have no access to the internet. Like, you want to look up that restaurant you're excited about going to, you're not doing it on my ghost phone because it doesn't exist. You literally can't do it.
Steve's going to flip. He's going to love this.
I love it because it just, and I've been using it for a while, because I'll use I have my old phone set up with like Instagram and stuff, but it only works when I'm on Wi-Fi, and I have my set times a day that I'm doing that kind of stuff. So I never get sucked into my phone. So I've built those safeguards in for maternity leave, but I also know I get to this point, usually around 6 weeks postpartum, 4 to 6 weeks, where I do start getting like random creative ideas, or I might want to write, or, you know, I certainly don't want to like put myself together and like record a podcast on camera, but I might want to sit down and like flesh out a piece of intellectual property I'm excited about developing. So all that ranting to say, I appreciate you saying that, because I think it like shined a light on the fact that I was about to repeat history having such strict boundaries that might not actually work well for me, might not feel healthy for me.
Yeah. And I mean, Liz, just to reflect, because I'm a friend and I've known you for a while now, you also are having your next kiddo at home near all of your family. And this hasn't been true. I mean, maybe ever.
True.
Did you have Jack?
I had Jack and Marie close to family. And then I had Abby and Nadima away. And it was so vastly different. But my business was also different back then, where I had a lot more space and time when Jack and Marie were born, where it's become more intricate and more moving parts. So when I had the two in Wisconsin and we didn't have family around, it was so hard. Like, I did have to be like all hands on deck with the kids, but I was also still working because I wasn't intentional about taking a leave. So this is a beautiful differentiator in that we probably won't cook a meal for the first month because we'll have family just dropping stuff
incredible.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think of that piece of it.
Yeah, I would say invite all the support because you have it. I mean, I know you've been supportive to your family being back in town and all that stuff, but I think really what it comes down to, of course, right, is just giving yourself options. Like, I think when I plan a maternity leave, it's not about creating really strict rules. It's not about being on or off or whatever. It's just about having options. And I love that you brought up that you had stuff on your calendar, but it wasn't on anybody else's time. Like, you didn't have commitments that were being held by somebody else. I think that's the perfect type of work to have on a maternity leave, a sabbatical, any sort of strategic time away. Because if you find the time in the day, and sometimes depending on when family's available, depending on how the baby's sleeping, whatever that's looking like, you can grab that time in the morning, you could grab that time mid-afternoon, but you have the kind of clarity on perhaps what you want to do. So for me, in my second leave, I still contributed to my blog and to my email list because I just love writing. And I didn't tell anybody though. I was just like, hey, I'm going to go off for a little while and you'll probably get some musings from me over maternity leave, but I'm probably just not going to make a commitment. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to deliver this once a week or I'm going to deliver this 2 times a week. I just said, I'll give you my best stuff and things I've been thinking about. So I think embrace the creativity. Definitely make sure that you don't beat yourself up for wanting to be in the business, because at the end of the day, you created this business and you built all of these things so that you could make the world a better place for your kids to grow up in. And because it's very connected to who you are and your skill set and what you do. And I find most entrepreneurial women do want to work in their business at some point. I mean, I get antsy after like 2 weeks. It's wild.
Yeah. I'm curious for the people who are, let's say, either they do work where they have clients where they're consulting, or their contract work where it's like they get their monthly retainer and then they provide, whether it's deliverables or advising or whatever. What's the best way I know because I've had some clients struggle with this. What's the best way to communicate with their clients that they're going to be on leave? And what is the expectation? Like, some of them are like, well, they're not going to pay me for those months if I stay ahead and I still get them what they need, or my team takes over, even if I'm not directly in the delivery of stuff. Communication to those clients, any do's or don'ts, and then what is kosher? What is, what works best? What's the expectation?
Yeah. This is a great question. I'm actually drawing pictures because, I love to do that. I'm not positive if this is going to be televised. Is that a word anymore? Yes. Televised.
It will be.
So it's number one, if you are a contractor, fractional work, whatever that looks like for you, even if you do it digitally, which I'd imagine most people would, who are kind of in this bucket of conversation. This problem is solved with client journey every single day. Mm-hmm. Client journey, client journey, client journey. And it's super interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine recently who I mentor and have done so in several capacities. And she said to me, she was like, I'm afraid to niche down. And I'm like, why? And she said, because I really want to grow this business and create more revenue and financial freedom for my family. And it feels like I'm saying no to other opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I said, great. What if every single one-legged dental hygienist came to your door tomorrow? Would you be able to help every single one of them? And she was like, well, no. I don't know how many one-legged dental hygienists are out there, but y'all get my point, right? If we start to really think about our niche and how actually how much effort it would take and how much resource we would need to throw at that to actually saturate the entire thing, it is so overwhelming. And so I think generally speaking, if you have a client base, there's 2 specific ways to niche down. Number one is by like type of person, right? Needs that kind of thing, or like industry that they're in. So it's all like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not psychographics, but like social graphics, whatever the term is there. The second is the way that you help them, right? So for example, like Taki Moore, prolific coach of coaches. He coaches coaches. Well, coaches is in a very specific niche, but what he does is he helps them get from 10K a month to 100K a month. That's a very specific outcome, right? And so you can be specific in one of 2 ways. You can say, I help one-legged dental hygienists scale their business, or you can say, I help coaches do this very specific thing. And so generally speaking, what you want to do when you're going out, whether it's for maternity leave, sabbatical, whatever else, you want to put down on paper your client journey. So let's just say, for example, we'll use Taki because he's super great. We say, cool, we help people get from 10K to 100K. And here's how we do that. We have this process, this process, this process, and this process. They're stacked on top of each other and they're all linear. So you cannot pass go and collect $200 unless you do these 8 things. And then you go to the next bucket, right? So his process is so streamlined that whenever he gets somebody into his ecosystem, most often what happens is he'll plug them into the specific area of the client journey that they are in. And the reason I share this is because you can start to get creative with how you deliver the stuff that you are putting on your client journey. So when I took my second maternity leave, I didn't really take it first though, y'all, spoiler alert. I kind of learned my process through baby 1 and baby 2. But when I was taking some time away with Jack, I had 30-ish clients paying me some form of retainer for operations work. And what I did was I reached out to all of them and I said, hey guys, this is our process. Here's where you are. Here are the 3 or 4 things that we can do to get you from here to here while I take maternity leave. And I just delivered it up front. And then they were thrilled, absolutely thrilled. I lost 0 clients. I kept all my retainers. So the thing about it, I'm working with a therapist right now. She's in one of our programs called the Solo Maternity Leave Method. And she literally reached out to all of her clients and she was like, hey, I have this really great offer. I'm going to coach you guys on Voxer while I'm away on maternity leave. I'm going to check it Tuesdays and Thursdays. You don't have to drive to my office. You may actually get more net therapy time going back and forth unlimited via the week, and let's keep our rates the same. And she kept every single client over maternity leave. And then guess what we did? We reached out to all the people who haven't booked a one-on-one session with her in the last 6 months. And a bunch of those people joined the dang Voxer group. And so now she's got more revenue going out on maternity leave because she defined this process and because she created a more leveraged way to get someone a result within the process. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you, it's client journey, client journey, client journey. It's always that, because I think a lot of us, especially me, I remember being in this position too when I was fractional COOing it all over the place. People would come to me with like every operational issue under the sun. And I would have all these different types of clients with all these different types of teams, all these different types of issues. And then I remember when I did this for myself, I was looking at my book of business and I was like, wow, okay, we could start to lead them through. And then my days started to look the same. There was a rhythm that started to happen. New clients started to come in and fit the bill of what I really wanted to do. And it honestly changed my business for the better. So I wasn't scattered anymore. I wasn't just the yes girl doing whatever as a fractional person or as a, full-time 1099 or whatever it is they thought of me at the time. I actually was an expert with a process who had a nice little party bus. And I was like, you guys want to get on here? Because we're going to go this way. And they were all down. Everybody was ready.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. I think it's easy to overthink that. And it's easy to think you're going to send the email saying like, hi, I'm taking maternity leave. Please don't fire me.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's stressful.
Yeah. It's all like with everything. It's positioning, it's messaging, and it's continuing to offer, like people are just here for the transformation.
100%.
And how you deliver that can be like, there are many ways that you can approach that. So before you guide people to where they can learn more about what you're doing and how they can learn from you, leave us with like your final words of wisdom to the listeners, to me, especially me. Like, who cares about the listeners? Hello, I just need help. To anyone that is ready and like ready to embrace this challenge and step into this, give us some words of wisdom and then like a few juicy pieces of fruit on the other side of doing this. Like what good can we expect to come from this if we have the courage to take that leap?
Yeah, I think something encouraging I will say is that owning a business and having it be successful and align with who you are personally and make the impact that you want to make, it's not easy, but it can be simple. And I encourage you that this work is no different. There are going to be times where you're like, dang, this is actually really difficult for me to clarify my vision and distill down all the metrics or all the initiatives we have to one thing, or to niche down in our market, or to really try to streamline or simplify the way that we deliver our stuff and, how our client journey works. But generally speaking, this is the work that people are unwilling to do. And I think the old saying or like the stats around this are like most businesses fail after or within the first year, and it's because they run out of cash. But I believe that next kind of layer about year 5, where businesses also fail, is because they're not willing to embrace systems and they're not willing to get really clear and really focus on where they're going. And the type of thing, honestly, that can come out of this. I mean, especially for moms, welcoming kiddos into the world. Like, you don't want to just do everything the same way with a baby on your hip. Your life is not going to be in a position where it gets radically better unless you're willing to create the systems and the clarity to be able to feed them. I often find most of our clients come back to a business when they're done taking some strategic time off that feels lighter, that feels more supportive. They feel like they can create from a place not of like scarcity and everybody's just asking them 10,000 questions and there's 100 fires to put out during any given day, but from a place of like real peace and real purpose. And I think that is something that is, I would say, underrated, man. Yeah. Like, everybody's all in service of top line numbers and how many, whatever is happening inside of your funnel. But I think generally speaking, if you can at the end of every day be like, I'm super proud of the person I showed up as today. I feel like I made the impact I made, not only in my business, but also in my home. Those are the things that I think are going to be with us when we're old and gray and we're like, wow, okay, I really did it. Like, I left it out there. I left it all on the field. And you don't have to be in a situation where you feel like you desperately need a break or you desperately need a sabbatical. If you're on here feeling that way, then you may be overdue. And so I would start to try to take some small steps in the direction of getting yourself some more time away from the business. But I'll tell you what, systems and doing a lot of this work, this is the unsexy stuff that really makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel it. And to your point, super underrated feeling of satisfaction at the end of your day. Like, how many of us overfunction and we pack everything we can into whatever our work day is, and we come to 4:00 or 5:00 and all we feel is like, okay, like I need 8 a.m. tomorrow to come around because I've got all this stuff I have to continue. Like, life is just a continuous loop instead of moments of like, yep, that was it. Like, that was really good. That was effective. I did what I was here to do today. So like, there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for having peace and quality of life as you do what you're meant to do 100%. And as you build the business. So anyway, this was so incredibly valuable, selfishly for me, but I think for anybody that's feeling that pressure and feeling like they can't step out in any capacity, whether it be maternity leave or sabbatical or just time away or space or whatever. And you're just a wealth of knowledge on this stuff, Ally. You're so brilliant in how you share it and you make it really digestible and you take the complication out of it, which I deeply appreciate. And I want people to be able to find you, learn from you. We want to direct them towards the resources that are going to best serve them no matter what season they're in. So what's the best way?
Yeah, I run a workshop, like I said before, about every 6 weeks or so. If you head to mastermaternityleave.com/momentum, it's called the Leave Without Losing Momentum Workshop. It's mostly for women who are taking maternity leave from their business. And if you register for the workshop and you aren't taking a maternity leave, but you do want to take some strategic time off from the business, it's literally the same systems I plucked out of my book, The Sabbatical Method. We're just kind of spinning it for maternity leave. So you can easily plan some time away at that workshop. I'm there live. It's 90 minutes. We really dive deep. And honestly, it's like one of my favorite things to do. I love workshopping. But if you guys want to join, it's $100, but with code Liz, you guys get 100% off of the ticket price. So you can join for free if you want to come and join me and other folks who are just trying to take strategic time away from their business, build their legacy, build their systems, like actually have a business that feels like it's ease and not overwhelm all the time. There's going to be seasons of heart, of course, and we embrace that too at Master Maternity Leave and with all my private clients that I work with. But generally speaking, we don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time we want to drum up a sale or every single time we want to fulfill on a product or service or improve our business in any way. Like, there are systems for that and you can lean on those, and I bring those to the table. So yeah, that's the best way to get involved.
Awesome. We'll link all that in the show notes so you have it. But Ally, this was so valuable. Thank you for your time and for just pouring your gifts into us in this way, because I think like there's a ripple effect that goes so far beyond business or just the maternity leave or just the sabbatical. Like, this is how we show up well in our families. This is how we show up aligned for ourselves and really what the work we're called to do. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. I had a blast.
One more thing. You are leading right now from feeling like you're just strong arming everything. Like, it's sheer will and force and not just from your calling, and that you're not in your sweet spot, and that you're not more profitable than you've ever been. I have a free quiz. It's 6-minute mirror into how you were meant to lead and grow and scale without sacrificing what matters most. You're going to have so much freaking clarity over this. It is our leadership style quiz. Go to luminaryleadershipco.com/style, or just go to the description. You can grab it there. It's going to transform your life and your business.